But this is not the step, this is just a study area, it's not the plan itself, it's not the site plan, so I understand the concern, this is not the correct venue. Tonight, it's not the correct.
This is where's Mark?
Yes, yeah, he's driving.
This is pretty big. The redevelopment. Congratulations. Well, thanks.
Hello, Steve. How are you?
Good yourself.
Doing okay. A little tired, a little beat up.
And you're not working too hard?
Oh, yes, it is. Dave has seen a little bit of it. No, I am working right now. It should, well, we're done through Thanksgiving at this point. Because I refuse to work anymore.
Because what, you refuse to work anymore?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you get everybody out and get winterized, I guess you would, right?
We're not done winning business.
No?
Yeah, that quick cold was a little tough. We fixed everything.
Because it was a long warm, right? Surprisingly warm.
Well, long hot, but it was really warm for a long time.
Yeah, and then it just, yeah.
And it keeps everybody wanting to use
Yes.
their boats.
Right.
Yeah. Say, Lovey. How are you, sir?
Good. You guys look good.
We're in for your close-up. You're good.
Your predecessor never told us that.
Who was my predecessor?
No, his predecessor.
Oh,
My predecessor.
Yes, the fellow who has been coming to the meeting.
Andy?
Yeah.
he's a good man.
Andy's a good kid.
Like very quiet.
Like most of the youth today, though, they don't want to do too much.
No, he was good.
I hope he'll return to
We actually enjoyed his company,
That's good.
as it should be. We had everything to share and nothing to take away. Good evening, everybody. Please stand for a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This meeting is now called to order. The Borough of Seabright, in compliance with the Open Public Meeting Act, has provided adequate notice of the time, date, and location of this meeting to the Asbury Park Press and the Link News on October 28, 22. Filed notice with the Borough Clerk, posted notice on the Borough in the Borough office and on the Borough website. This meeting is open to the public and all are welcome. We have a roll call, please.
Councilman Bieber.
Here.
Ms. Bills. Mr. Cashmore.
Here.
Chairman Cunningham.
Here.
Vice Chairman Sale.
Here.
Here. Mayor Kelly. Mr. Lawrence.
Here.
Mr. Lexstein. Mr. Schwartz.
Here.
Mr. Julian. Here.
Welcome, everybody. On to a memorialization of a resolution for Kim Kurkowski and Kerry Hoffman, 13 Church Street, Block 14, Lot 8. Discussion for a motion.
There was some added information on it. Is that something crucial?
Added information?
What was this letter I was just reading about Church Street?
Don't know.
This is a resolution.
This is
It's
the,
a resolution.
That's the whole thing.
yeah, I haven't gotten it. Okay, all right. So somebody else want to make a motion?
So move. So move. Second. Roll call, please. If you're back.
Actually, oh, we did the minutes. It's getting my count, but we have to do.
Oh, I missed the minutes.
That's okay. Let's see.
Yeah, let's go. We're in a roll call, so
I think Councilman cannot do it on this one.
Roll call for this vote.
For the Kirkowski, were you on Kirkowski?
I said it, wasn't
You were?
I did.
Okay.
Second one, probably.
Oh, the second one.
Yeah, that was the only one.
Yeah,
The
right.
first one got canceled.
Okay, true. Mr. Cashmore?
Yes.
And Councilman Bieber again.
Yes.
Chairman Cunningham?
Yes.
It's been a hard Vice Chairman DeSalle?
Yes.
And Ms. Gorman, you were not on it? Voted not. Okay. And Mr. Lawrence?
Yes.
Okay, and that's it.
I'll just skip back to the approval of the minutes from October 25th, 22. I apologize for skipping over that. Any discussion on those minutes or a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Second? Liz?
Let's see, Mr. Cashmore?
Yes.
Chairman Cunningham?
Yes.
Vice Chairman DeSalle?
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence?
Yes.
And that's it for those minutes.
On to our regulars from Mountain View Villas. A request for a third extension on the approvals.
This is that one.
Because of the one law.
Yeah, the one lot, yeah.
Any discussion or question about it?
I warned him that we're not trouble with that one.
Yeah.
It was wetlands. No, but it's tough to get through the system, so I have no problem with approving an extension.
Nor do I. You're making a motion, Dave?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second it. Need a roll call, please?
Councilman Bieber?
Yes.
Mr. Cashmore?
Yes.
Chairman Cunningham?
Yes.
Vice Chairman DeSalle?
Yes.
Ms. Gorman?
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence?
Yes.
Mr. Schwartz?
Yes.
Mr. Jordan?
Hanging there with our lovely DEP.
Time limits. Which is one.
Okay, on to, I'm sure I'm not skipping over anything else. The recommendation for adoption of an amended plan for the Shrewsbury River Properties redevelopment area per council resolution number 173-2022. Discussion.
Wait, we got the previous condition.
Let the record show.
Yes.
We have the councilman stepping down and Heather stepping down because she's within 200 feet.
Mr. Chair, may I swear our planner, please?
Yes, you may. Do you need to re-swear her?
She asked to be sworn in, so why not?
No, but because typically I don't give like testimony, I'm only like participating in the hearing. I think it's important to make sure that we do everything like officially.
Agreed.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth for purposes of this application.
I do.
Thank you. Would you please inform the board as to the need for the amended?
Sure. So I understand that the borough had designated this area as in need of redevelopment, and a redevelopment plan was subsequently approved for this area. However, in this area, there are a couple of lots, there's 4 actual lots that are owned by the borough that I don't know if it just got missed or it was left out because people felt like it was borough property, it didn't matter, whatever. However, when the application came in for review a couple months ago, it became apparent that a couple lots that are being used in this application, whether it's through a swap with the borough or whatever, were not included in the study area. And they're like mid-block lots. These are not like stragglers on the outside. One is the kayak launch that's existing, and the other is like Poppinger Place, which is a tax lot, which is used as a access road or whatever for other residents to access their property. And there was going to be a swap of land, whatever the internal issues are, is kind of irrelevant to this proceeding. But those lots were not included in the redevelopment study area designation.
Let's say, let me just amend that. Were the numerical lots included?
No.
Right, they were not.
Correct.
But was the intent to utilize those lots?
My understanding.
But I thought that was to be just so you were.
I just wanted her to answer the question.
Okay.
So, to be fair, I wasn't the professional for the borough when this happened, so I'm not 100% sure what occurred. However, they were not included in the study area designation, nor were they included in the redevelopment plan. And so this is curing that issue. Because it is also my understanding, having spoken to people that were involved in the process, that it was 100% the intention to either swap lots or include those lots or whatever. But regardless, to utilize them under the redevelopment plan, they have to be included in the plan. So
In the redevelopment plan.
they have to be included in the designated area and then ultimately the plan. So what this is tonight is an amendment to the need study, meaning the designation of the area as in need of redevelopment, to include these properties. And the redevelopment law, right, I'm going to delve into Monica's area a little bit, allows you to designate properties that maybe on their own would not qualify for being in need of redevelopment if their inclusion was essential for the overall implementation of a redevelopment project. So meaning, if you have multiple properties in a quote-unquote redevelopment area, every single individual property does not have to qualify. The majority of them do, which clearly was already done. However, every single one doesn't. So like on face value, would I say Coppinger Place would qualify? Probably not. But in the grand scheme of the overall redevelopment initiative, that lot is essential for the implementation of the redevelopment. So therefore, it should be included. And so therefore, my findings are that these properties should be, that's why it's an amendment, they should be included in the study area to allow for implementation of the overall redevelopment project, which will come before us. I'm not saying it won't. It will still come before us for site plan approval, but these lots need to be included in the study area in order for that to at least initially allow for it. It still has to go back to the governing body to have the plan itself amended to include these lots, but the first step is the study area. So my recommendation is that based upon the initiative, this redevelopment initiative, that these lots should be included in the study area because they're essential for the implementation of the redevelopment of this area. And so therefore I would recommend, and you guys can do what you want, finding an affirmative finding of an affirmative vote, which will therefore go back to the governing body if you guys do decide that it's a yes, and then the redevelopment ordinance and the plan itself will then have to be amended to include these properties as well.
So this one block 15, lot 9, that's Tivinger Place,
Yep.
that allows people access to, I assume, the boat ramp as well.
No, it's an L shape, that's the other street, yes.
Right. So what's ultimately done, what we're voting on now has no effect on what's ultimately done.
Correct, and the intention, just so that you're aware, is for a land swap where that lot is allowed to be included in the redevelopment and a lot immediately adjacent would be provided to the borough to continue to allow for that access. That's the ultimate plan, but that's step 3.
That, right, so that.
This is step 1.
Could go back there. but
Yes,
that would be part of the plan.
that's a later step, yes.
And it's also important to note that this amendment procedure is actually set forth in the plan that was already adopted. So just so everybody's aware, and we're doing it really for purposes of also notice provision, because when Jen first brought it to our attention, we worked very long and hard with all of the council people, the redevelopment attorneys, and the borough attorney to make sure that everybody had a full and fair opportunity to understand what lots are supposed to be included in this, so everybody has the opportunity at the correct time to come and talk about the site plan.
Exactly.
That will be submitted eventually. So,
Exactly.
the redevelopment plan is still in place.
Exactly. So this amendment is just.
Right now, without that.
Right.
Correct. So the proposal that's being made by the redeveloper right now cannot move forward as is. And I'm not opining one way or the other on the redevelopment, on that proposal, because it hasn't come here. We haven't really gotten into the weeds of it. But what I'm saying is that it is my understanding that the intention was always for some swapping of property on both the kayak launch, which is supposed to be, in my opinion.
My recollection, it was donating of property in balance, that they were gonna create this big park.
Circuitous thing, yes.
This big beautiful park along the front.
Agreed, so
Yeah.
that, the lot needs to be included. And then Poplar Place was intended to be swapped with a property that's on the kind of like end of the redevelopment, which would still allow for access. So I have no opinion whatsoever on those, like that arrangement.
Right.
What I'm saying is without this, that can't happen. So this is an amendment to allow for whatever, and they still have to come here, there still has to be a
So
public hearing.
what we're looking for tonight is our recommendation to the council.
No, your approval of this needs study amendment by resolution, which would then be sent to the council as your affirmation that these lots should have been
Okay.
included, yes.
Seems pretty simple.
Same. Everything's the same.
Like, the project is not really changing yet, because I know there's some other issues, but we'll get to that later. But at the end of the day, this is just like fixing the area, which I'm not really 100% sure why that happened, but we're just trying to cure
I think it was really, if you want an explanation, I was involved in a lot of that. And I think it was really that the governing body felt that they wanted this redevelopment. They were very in favor of it at the time, and they were willing to include those properties, thinking it was still their property.
I understand.
Yeah,
Right.
and I'm sure you've been through all this with the.
Yes, we went kind of like when it came up and the application came in and I was
The
reviewing it.
intentions were.
I understand the intention, which is why we're back here with this amendment, because the intention was always for those properties to be swapped out or included in some way. It just, because they were owned by the borough, I think at the time they felt like they didn't need to include them. However, looking deeper into it, the answer is they should have been included, so that's why we're here. That's all.
I believe there was a park and all that other stuff they were doing.
Yes, 100% agree.
Yeah.
And so I think there was always the intention for these properties to be used. So this is really just fixing
We
this
think,
technical defect.
yeah, that's exactly what it is. We think council at the time just felt since they were owned by the borough that they didn't need to be included numerically, and quite frankly, we just felt differently
Yeah,
for purposes of notice. So I think it came down to, we want to do this properly so everybody is on the list, everybody who's within the 200-foot list and in the area knows that these were supposed to be there.
exactly.
Am I to understand there's no park anymore? I've heard two people.
I know this is nothing to do with that, so we don't
No,
know
I know.
yet. No, I don't know the answer to that yet.
That's all site plans.
That's a site plan situation,
No,
which will come to us, so we will have an absolute opportunity to discuss it, because I've heard some other issues with the proposal based upon what was submitted to us when this came up. So there are definitely going to be some issues that arise when we get to that point. We're just not there yet. I just don't know 100% once we get there.
Nor do we know when we're going to get there.
Correct.
Any other discussion from the board?
I mean, it makes sense that they should be included in the overall plan, and it was obviously,
Well, they were included in the overall plan, but it was more of a gift of use.
Yeah, it's just a matter of
Yeah.
including the block and lots in the document,
We
that's all.
already mentioned the block lots.
Yeah.
But I would suggest we open this to the public at this point. If there's a statement or anybody has a question about anything, please step up right now. Always give plenty of time.
Yep.
If not, there's no more, public portion is now closed. Does anyone want to make a motion to go forward and include these properties?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
We have a roll call.
Who was the first?
John Schwartz.
He who should be in Florida right now is making the
Because when the fireworks start, I'll see it.
That's
It'll be quite some time before that site plan, before this.
I mean, Dina was here when we started this thing, so, I mean, she was the mayor, so this is how long it's taking just to get to this.
Yeah.
Ready, Mr. Cashmore?
Yes.
Chairman Cunningham?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Seiya?
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence?
Yes.
Mr. Schwartz?
Yes. Thank you. We'll send that notice back, right, I mean, when's the next meeting?
December.
Right, so my question is, like, this resolution goes back to the governing body when?
Well, we memorialized in December, so what are we, December 13th? So
Yeah.
So go back to the month 14th.
Okay.
We have a meeting, 12/13.
We have, what?
We do.
We have a meeting,
Yeah,
12/13.
yeah, December 13th.
We have one meeting in December.
I get it. It happens in every town, right? One meeting in November, one meeting in December. That's generally how it
We
goes.
have
And then the first meeting in January
It's real.
is reorganization, so nothing happens until February.
Pretty much.
possibly, but they weren't.
I mean, resolutions might be able to get memorialized, but you never know.
Okay, because we do a lot of public work. And they have to pay us in January.
No, me either.
And usually this December for one reason or
Me too.
another.
Yep.
So it's a long,
Redevelopment's always an interesting approach.
It's always a great experience.
Yep.
That's
I think, I'm reading this correctly. That about does our agenda. Is there any other business before the board this evening? Anyone from the public like to be heard? Be happy to listen.
And I'd like to say something, and I discussed this with you before. I'm wondering whether after we have a planning board meeting and we ask the applicant to make some modifications to the plans, and then they're resubmitted back to us, I'm thinking, I have two incidents that I've run into since I've been on the board where the plans that came back were different than the plans that were in front of the board. And it wasn't picked up. And one of them actually right now happens to be a hotel up north. They put lighting on the side of the building that shines 3 miles down the road. And that wasn't on the original plan, and it wasn't complied with our ordinance about flowing your light, or what's it called, your light going beyond the
shield
property line.
being directed downward, right?
Yeah, it has to be done. But what I'm getting at is that,
Well, they never put the lighting plan in.
and it was never
That they
on
were
the
supposed to.
It was never on the.
So ultimately, that's probably a code enforcement issue.
A what?
Code enforcement
Oh, no,
issue.
it's being handled. I'm wondering whether
Maybe a review board.
we should maybe have, when you have a major project that has to be resubmitted after it did some minor changes, somebody should look at it.
Well, I mean, the bottom line is this: if you're not comfortable with what's been happening, then don't approve it. Make them come back with changes and show them to you, and then you guys can approve
I
it.
think they say we don't know.
We don't know that it's changing.
We never picked it up, it wasn't cloudy, it wasn't anything, so we got a full set of plans.
Right, but then how did it get signed off on? That's the question. So like, the plans have to get signed off on. You didn't miss it. It doesn't come back to you. So at the end of the day, what is approved has to get signed off on. So the question becomes, how did it get signed off on? It should not have been
Well,
signed off on if it was different. Hold on. If it was different from what you approved.
Answering your question this time, easily. When you go back in to sign plans, you look at everything, you try and remember exactly what was approved. Well, I don't know what that means. I can do that
No,
too.
they should be using the resolution which requires
Right.
a whole slew of conditions,
Right.
plus compliance with review letters.
But it happened.
Well, it was an oversight, obviously, but it's happened before.
Right.
I had an issue with
And these are things that weren't even on the plan.
But that's my point.
When the run.
So-
And we didn't get the plan.
when-
It will not come back to you.
No, I know that. That's the point I'm making, and it goes to the engineer.
So then.
And so it was an oversight.
Right, do.
Right.
But I'm wondering whether we should have a couple people look at it, because you need the input rather
A
than.
review board or something.
That's not legal.
You're not.
That's not our job.
If you don't want to approve it until they come back, then don't approve it and make them come back with final plans so you can approve it.
Right.
Well, the other situation that I wanted to bring up, when they built the Run Runner, the plans that were before us on the planning board that we approved showed on the south end of the building to be a big dining room. But then when they resubmitted it after the few changes we needed to have them do for the parking lot and things like that, it came back, there was a bar there, which wasn't on the application when it came before the board. So, I mean, it was another oversight.
I don't know if it's an oversight, they just did whatever.
So resolution, so either,
I wouldn't say that.
No?
was it on the plans that they submitted for
It was on the
resolution?
plans that we approved it, and I assume it was.
I pulled the plans out.
If it wasn't on the approved plans.
This isn't an argument, what I'm saying is I think maybe we should have it re-examined before.
You can't do that. So the bottom line is if you approve it,
Yeah.
and then you're
Right.
trusting your engineer to review it, that's it.
Then
If
maybe-
you don't want to approve it until they come back with plans that you want to see, then don't approve it.
Well, maybe we
And
should
tell
make a
them,
requirement that any plans that are before us are going to be.
This is a little bit unusual situation, but I think we need to stay calm on this. I agree with you. I would have no problem with a little more review of the plans before signing.
but you can't do that. Once you approve it,
Of course
you're
you
done, right? No,
You
you
gotta
can't.
compare it.
Then don't approve it. You can't approve it.
What Jen is saying is instead of approving it, if the applicant is agreeing.
I understand
Yeah, I was
that.
gonna say, so if the applicant is agreeing to suggestions, then carry them with no further notice to come back with amended plans that you can approve them.
Well, that we can,
Or approve them on preliminary only.
Yeah.
And require them to come back with revised plans based upon all your suggestions for final.
That would be.
Because once you approve
We don't have
it,
to-
they cannot come
Because
back.
once it's approved, it's out of your jurisdiction.
Hey, Dave, let me just ask you one question. You're talking about the difference between what gets approved and what winds up as the final plans that are on our records. Not that they made changes after those plans were submitted.
Correct.
Because the second one is a code enforcement issue.
Correct.
Oh, yeah, no, that's what's handling it
I'm
now.
talking about between what's approved here and what is finalized in the records. That's the difference that you're talking about.
But as the chairman's here, when we go down to sign a set of plans after they've been submitted, we don't sit there and examine.
But that's not your job, that's the engineer's job.
Basically saying that the engineer needs to look a little closer to make sure plans
Yes.
haven't changed. Period.
It's not going to happen in the past, but it's not happening anymore.
well,
If, you know,
anybody can make a mistake or anybody can miss anything.
Jen, is there a step that you can say upon approval, you're certifying that these are the final plans?
So, no, because if you're granting preliminary and final with conditions, meaning I want more landscaping around the trash enclosure, I want this parking space to be this, whatever, you're approving it subject to them revising the plans and your engineer reviewing it and signing off on it. Or
Okay,
your
so if there-
professionals, meaning
if there-
myself included, right? Myself and the engineer. So at the end of the day, if it doesn't get reviewed properly on resolution compliance and then gets built based on those plans that are signed, there's really nothing we can do. However, if this is a repetitive issue, then, and I do this in a lot of towns where if there's conditions that you want to see and you want to make sure about, they don't get final, they get preliminary, which gives them rights. It gives them like some vested rights. And they have to do all the revisions to come back for final in front of you for approval. If that's the issue, then on bigger applications, then I would recommend maybe separating out preliminary and final. You're not obligated to do both at the same time. There is a separate process for both. If it's a matter of it got missed, then you're right. Then, the engineer and resolution compliance just needs to be a little bit more detail oriented and looking at not just, so like what happens, and I'm not trying to throw him under the bus because I do this all the time. What happens is I get the resolution, I have my letter, right? and I look at the plans against the stuff that happened in the resolution and my letter, if like new things are added to the plans, it may not initially be picked up because it's not in his letter, it's not in the resolution. So like, you're not really looking for that when you're looking at resolution compliance. If it's, okay, we're resolution compliant on the lighting, and I'm using lighting just generically, not that particular issue, to make sure that it's, compliant on the height of poles and the foot candles, etc., then that's what you're looking at because that's what's left over in your letter.
Yeah, sometimes nobody looks at the other 7 pages, so somebody may have made changes.
Correct. So that's so maybe if it's a one-shot issue, that's one thing. If it's a repetitive issue, then you just need to let Dave and I know that this has been happening so that we'll be a little bit more detail-oriented through the reso compliance review. Because what I do in my office is I look at my letter, I look at the items that were hanging, right, that they agreed to on the record but haven't yet put in a plan. I look at the resolution, which addresses that. But I don't go looking through a 25-sheet plan set because I don't have that many hanging items. So if it's a one-shot issue, that's one thing. If it's a repetitive issue, then just let your professionals know to take a harder look during reso compliance. The applicants pay for it. It's not like the borough pays for it. And to go through each sheet to make sure that what's being proposed is exactly what was approved.
Yeah, we don't want to have a situation, we have to do a comprehensive review of everything to make sure that it didn't slip something through. To Dave's point, it sounds like the best approach from what I'm hearing is preliminary approval when you submit, here are the changes, you come back with final plans, certify that those are the final. Anything after that is a code enforcement issue.
Agreed. And that has happened, well, in some of the larger towns that I work in, it's very atypical for preliminary and final to be issued at the same time.
Yeah, that's very doable, Dave.
Usually it's preliminary only, they come back.
It is, but there's so many times that the change is so minor.
Yeah.
That to do that is a hardship for our residents. But not talking about our businesses, right?
I understand.
Yeah.
But I agree with what she's saying, is maybe you should come back to the board, because I'm building a long.
There's no notice requirement for final, just so you know. So it's really just a matter of coming back.
Right.
When
I know that.
Right? There's no notice.
But that can be a hardship.
I'm building
Not for us.
right now, and
I get
went to the building.
I get it.
I went to the building department with a new set of construction drawings. They wouldn't accept it. They said, I'm only using the plans that are given to me from the planning board.
Which were signed, right? Which were
That was
signed. So are you saying that there's a discrepancy between, because I'm not really, so is it a discrepancy between the site plan, let's just say that comes here, and the construction plans that go to the building department? Because then this board has absolutely no ability to change that.
No, well, I'm not trying to throw somebody under the bus either, but one of the requirements for the final sign off on the set of plans there was that they were going to submit a lighting plan.
Right.
And they did. But it was still approved. All right, so that was an oversight. I'm not trying to blame it.
No, I agree.
No, what it was approved
Conditioned on a lighting plan.
conditionally on the engineer getting the lighting plan, that he never got, and
It slipped through.
signed off.
Well, we have recourse. We have recourse then.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, all I'm doing is trying to figure out.
Right, but my question is this a consistent
There is
issue?
recourse.
Or is it like a one-shot issue?
It's just code enforcement.
Is what?
Is this a consistent issue or is it a one-shot issue?
This is the second time I can remember I'm in here 22 years.
That's what I'm saying, so it's not.
It's occasional.
That's an occasion. Of course, it's 22 years now.
Monica, I have a question.
It's not an issue to me. 22 years.
No, I
twice.
still need to get a fixed line for it. I've been having a
What you don't want to do is slow progress unless there's a real issue. In my opinion, anyway.
Well, I just wanted to discuss it, that's all.
No, I'm happy to get
In every resolution, you have standard language that says that the plans have to conform to all of our regulations.
It's
unless they have been specifically waived through the variance or, however you should word it, and then that way,
It's already in
it's in there. So then we just take that. If the lighting doesn't conform, then they have to change it.
Yeah, but when they're amending on the record or supplementing, it's always subject to the engineer's approval.
But the engineer can approve the engineer if you miss something. See, what happens is what they'll do is we'll
Once it
have.
signs off, it's an issue.
Yeah.
Right, because they'll
then,
change it,
quite
but not
frankly-
clouded. And
Dave's
then,
done a great job for us.
I 100%. So once he signs off, and if there were things that were not shown on the plans that are being constructed, then that becomes a code enforcement issue.
Right.
Yeah.
So, topic question.
And they get a summons, and then they're gonna wind up back before us to make the lighting perfect, get the approval for the lighting, and then you guys can opine on.
They either apply or they
Yeah,
take it away.
Exactly.
Heather, you had a question?
When it comes to the riverfront application being actually presented, I know that the downtown community is very interested in hearing that, and there have been questions about whether we could open it up to a hybrid meeting or not, understanding that that's I think it's a council question to make that sort of decision. If the decision is not to, and this conversation isn't entertained about doing a hybrid meeting, I would just think we should probably talk about the best way to review that application and potentially giving the people advanced notice, as much advanced notice as possible, because I think a lot of people would unfortunately, a lot of people want to hear, see, and be a part of this conversation. So how can we make it more aware in advance so people feel they're given as much notice to change their schedules?
You mean the site plan?
Yeah,
Statutory requirement is 10 days.
10 days.
So
but what about the sign out in front of Borough Hall?
I think as much
Use that
awareness
sign, yeah.
and communication that we can give it to people.
Well, Candace, your agendas are on the website, correct?
yeah,
And your agendas are at least 2 weeks. Most often they're in advance of
I mean,
that.
it really comes down to whenever a submission occurs, it's got to go through the review process, and then it gets calendared because it has to be deemed, appropriate, ready for hearing. So then it gets calendared. So, at best, rather than calendaring it immediately, for the first meeting, 2 weeks, we can calendar it for the 4-week meeting.
I think if we can just give the community as much notice,
I mean, that's
that would
really-
be very much appreciated.
Yeah.
Do you think that this room is big enough to handle the crowd?
No.
You think
It's
so?
handling a lot of crowds. There's other rooms if we needed to.
It's,
I'm
I
just,
don't think.
check the website.
We could do a better job.
I know there's people that are interested.
Yeah.
And I think they want to know more about, we're stuck on site plan.
It's right on the website.
There's a lot of review that'll have to happen with DOT and around it, how they're getting in and how they're getting out.
well, and DEP too.
Yeah,
Everything on the website.
I mean, that may be one we can consider preliminary
yeah,
first and final.
yeah, I agree.
Because I'm guessing that there's gonna be a lot of discussion and conditions and things you guys wanna see, that perhaps the preliminary first, final second might be a better alternative for that size project.
We will appreciate your help with the blend of this board to the redevelopment. What's allowed in redevelopment
Yeah,
versus
no
what we're
problem.
allowed to do through a redevelopment.
But at the end of the day, you as a body, whether it's through a redevelopment plan or not, it depends on like the redevelopment agreement, which you're gonna have to be the voice of, right? I mean, I would say Heather too, because you're gonna be on the council at that point. And whether you're here, hopefully, or not, we'll figure that out. But at the end of the day, you're still treating that like a site plan application that you would hear. It's just different zoning parameters, right, than the traditional zoning.
Right.
So we just need to know if there were any like concessions or any kind of like accommodations made to the redevelopment agreement that would preclude some
Maybe.
things. I don't know what it is because I wasn't involved at that point, but I would say
Many zoning.
Candace, if you could send out to and get from like Joe Verdi or whatever, the redevelopment agreement, which clearly is a public document because it was adopted in public, to the board members, myself, Dave, at least we understand and Monica for sure, what the redevelopment agreement says, and if there's anything in there that would what I don't want to have happen is the applicant come, present to you, we ask a million questions, they're like, oh, the redevelopment agreement doesn't allow for that. Because while they say that all the time, sometimes it may be true, maybe not true, maybe partially true, and it's good for us to know what our parameters are, right? In terms of what we're...
So I just suggest.
Yes, so I would suggest maybe getting from Joe Verney the redevelopment agreement, which is a public document, and distributing it to everyone so that...
We had reviewed a lot of different things, and I don't know if anybody here actually knows what is exactly in the redevelopment.
Well, and that's the question, because I know that there's an individual that has been very concerned since the plans were submitted based upon what his understanding of the redevelopment agreement was, what the plans show in terms of the separation from his property line, and I can guarantee he will be here, which I think he absolutely should be here, but it'd be good for us to know in advance, what our parameters are, so that when because I have heard it all. Oh, the redevelopment agreement last week. Not quite. The sentence says this. And therefore, it gives us a little bit more control over the process instead of being completely on defense, which I don't think we want to do.
Mr. Chairman, a couple of things from the council perspective. There's been a lot of discussion amongst the council about the recognition that this is a very important issue for the town, and a lot of people are going to want to be involved in discussing it. So we have talked about the fact to need to have an open communication channel to make sure people are aware of these meetings. There's probably going to be multiple rounds of meetings between council meetings. There'll probably be more than one. There'll probably be multiple council meetings, multiple planning board meetings. So there's a lot of discussion about the fact that we have to make sure.
Well, is the council renegotiating the redevelopment agreement?
The redevelopment agreement is still in process right now.
Well, we have to, right, so we have to.
When you said go request it, I don't think it's ready for.
But how is it then, if there's no adopted redevelopment agreement, how are they then submitting to you?
Well,
that's what I'm wondering.
All I'm saying is, if you ask Joe Veroni for it, maybe it is being updated. That may be the answer. That's my only point.
I understand.
You said go get it. It may be in updated by the developer.
So my guess is that the update, quote unquote, is to include these lots.
Yes.
Right?
If that was the information.
But let's take the one that was approved. We still should be able to get the one that
you're trying to renegotiate the entire thing.
No, I'm not trying to say any of that. I'm trying to say two things.
I understand.
Your recommendation is go get it. My response is I don't think it's in final form right now, so it may have to wait until it's updated.
That's fine.
And the second thing is there's recognition on the council, just like there is here, that this is a hot topic. We've got to make sure we are open and transparent so people have a chance to come here in both environments, the council and the planning board. That's the only thing.
They always do. They're always welcome.
Well, I think that's a great suggestion, but I will say that if there is no final redevelopment agreement,
there is one.
it probably needs to be amended based on this. But I don't know the answer.
There is pressure to amend it other than just what we've spoke about tonight.
Who said that?
Interesting.
It's obvious.
Okay. My only point is, even for the issue we talked about tonight, I wouldn't be surprised if the redevelopment plan is going through an update because of that.
It has to.
So that's my point.
Well, that's
No,
why,
that
that's why it's
has to.
here.
But I think that
you're saying there's
including
obviously
additional
pressure to do
lots
other
would
things.
not change.
You just said there was pressure. You just said there was people that want to be involved in it. You just said 10 different things that clearly pressure on the council to do something different.
I said there is obvious interest in the community to understand what's going on here.
That's
what I
right.
said. I didn't say there's pressure on the council to make changes.
Oh, I apologize
I didn't say
for misinterpreting what you said. Well, you made it pretty obvious, Erwin. I don't want to argue with you about it, but it sounded like that.
Did anybody else hear me say that?
Say what? Pressure? No, nobody used that word with me.
Okay.
So regardless, I would recommend requesting any and all redevelopment agreements that are public documents currently, so that the board can understand. I'm assuming, and I don't know this for a fact, so I just want to lay that out there, that the developer is pushing to get back before us as soon as possible, right? So,
You would hope.
Yeah.
so at the end of the day, I would
It is
request.
a new development too.
Thank you.
I know, yes, but I would request that any and all redevelopment agreements that exist currently be provided to the board. And if there are amendments that come through the governing body process, then any subsequent agreement also be provided to the board. Because if there are no changes to the agreement other than the addition of these lots, whatever concessions the developer has made would be included in that original agreement.
You know what I love, and it's weird to say this, the website for the bridge development, I
Yeah,
thought was phenomenal. It had like color-coded step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. It took you through the whole entire project plan. It told you where it was in the project. Of each stage of the project plan, it had whatever was reviewed and whatever was approved. It just felt like you can, there's
you
no
understood
question
where you were in the
where
process.
you are.
Yeah.
And sorry you missed that one because that was part 2. You should have been here for part 2. We're on 5 right now, right? So we're not like sorry, but here's where we are. I thought that was super helpful, and I think that would go a long way to providing transparency and clarity, because there have been a lot of steps made thus far, right? And so this is where we are right now. This is what we approve right now. This
So
is
what I will
about
say is
traffic. This
I will
is what we
speak-
talk about, plumbing and sewage. And this is when this gets talked.
I will speak to Roger McLaughlin, obviously the borough attorney, and request that we come up with something similar to that. And I'll talk to Joe Maroney as well. Just put something on the website that shows it, because I agree, it's very clearly, I mean, let's be honest, it's probably the largest development that you guys have seen in quite some time. And people are concerned.
Yeah.
So
Let's also be clear that the borough also has redevelopment council who has to work in conjunction with Roger McLaughlin and my office and Ms. Bean, and the engineers. So it takes a while to actually communicate one idea that everybody should have been on the same page with, 3 weeks ago.
We can say, here's the link to where we are, the next meeting,
Yes. So I will tomorrow, unfortunately, I'm
I'll
still,
be dead before that thing's built.
as my daughter is driving home from the airport from college right now. Yeah, let me tell you, TFP is not happy about her name, but I will work with them to try to put something up on the website to just kind of, like you said, not to give like proprietary information or what have you, but just to understand like where we are. Like redevelopment process is X,
Yes.
right? So it's needs study, redevelopment plan, redevelopment agreement, land use board action, whatever, and like just like a step by step, just to let people know where they are in the process. And like I would suggest as well, like perhaps contact people like along the way, so if they have questions, there's like a very clear direction on where to go. And I could be very clear, my number will not be there, no, I'm sure my number will be there, but I will be happy to relay that tomorrow to everybody and just, I highly doubt that there's going to be pushback on it, but I will let you know if there is.
Do we have is there a developer that's developing?
That is like above my pay grade. I don't know.
Some of this, is there
Well, I mean,
a company under contract that's developing?
yes,
Denholz going.
Denholz, but they applied to us once, a couple months ago, Monica?
Yes.
And during the review, before it came before you, I noticed that there were lots that were included in the plan that were not in the redevelopment agreement, and not in the redevelopment area, not the agreement, the area. So I brought it up, it came up, we discussed it at, your workshop meeting? Mm-hmm. And then this was the process that was discussed and decided on to cure the defect for whatever reason. Well, yeah, but I mean, this is the process. This is the right legal process. So we're not like trying to like circumvent anything. This is like the process.
No, it makes sense.
Yeah, and so That way, because if those lots are gonna be used in the development, they need to be included in the process, in the plan.
Under the approved plan.
Correct.
That's the process.
So the next step will be that the governing body's gonna have to, this approval will be memorialized, obviously, in December, sent back to the governing body. In the meantime, the governing body will have to decide whether or not it wants to amend the plan to include these lots. So that's the next step.
So we've kind of drifted from David's suggestion to the redevelopment again, but why don't we move on? It's a holiday week. I have to get up early.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
So, home and see my.
Is there any other business before the board this evening? Anyone in the public wanted to be heard? If not, public portion's closed. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, David. Second that motion.